biblical tradition is, of course, Cain and Abel, where Cain will kill Abel, right? And then for that, Cain is punished. We're having the same thing. But finally, at the end of this speech, we're told we're safe and everything is good. Scene number 1 on page 819, we meet Creon. Creon is the king. Creon is the man who made the rule that Polynices shall not be buried. Creon is a strong leader, and we're going to ask about his weaknesses, not just his strengths. Let's follow now and hear what Creon has to say about what it takes to be a good leader.
Scene 1.
But now at last our new king is coming, Creon of Thebes, Menoikeus' son. In this auspicious dawn of his reign, what are the new complexities that shifting fate has woven for him? What is his counsel? Why has he summoned the old men to hear him?
Enter Creon from the palace center. He addresses the chorus from the top step.
Gentlemen, I have the honor to inform you that our ship of state, which recent storms have threatened to destroy, has come safely to harbor at last, guided by the merciful wisdom of heaven. I have summoned you here this morning because I know that I can depend upon you. Your devotion to King Laos was absolute. You never hesitated in your duty to our late ruler Oedipus. And when Oedipus died, your loyalty was transferred to his children. Unfortunately, as you know, his 2 sons, the princes Eteocles and Polynices, have killed each other in battle. And I, as the next in blood, have succeeded to the full power of the throne. I am aware, of course, that no ruler can expect complete loyalty from his subjects until he has been tested in office. Nevertheless, I say to you at the very outset that I have nothing but contempt for the kind of governor who is afraid, for whatever reason, to follow the course that he knows is best for the state.
820.
And as for the man who sets private friendship above the public welfare, I have no use for him either. I call God to witness that if I saw my country headed for ruin, I should not be afraid to speak out plainly. And I need hardly remind you that I would never have any dealings with an enemy of the people. No one values friendship more highly than I. But we must remember that friends made at the risk of wrecking our ship are not real friends at all. These are my principles, at any rate, and that is why I have made the following decision concerning the sons of Oedipus. Eteocles, who died as a man should die, fighting for his country, is to be buried with full military honors, with all the ceremony that is usual when the greatest heroes die. But his brother Polynices, who broke his exile to come back with fire and sword against his native city and the shrines of his father's gods, whose one idea was to spill the blood of his blood and sell his own people into slavery, Polynices, I say, is to have no burial. No man is to touch him or say the least prayer for him. He shall lie on the plain, unburied, and the birds and the scavenging dogs can do with him whatever they like. This is my command, and you can see the wisdom behind it. As long as I am king, no traitor is going to be honored with the loyal man. But whoever shows by word and deed that he is on the side of the state, he shall have my respect while he is living, and my reverence when he is dead.
All right, pause, write it down at level 1, very simple. Creon comes on stage, says 3 things. 1, he says, good news. The ship of state, the word picture is that your country is like a big ship. The ship of state has finally been safely returned back to harbor, thankfully. Number 2, I have made a decision. Eteocles will be buried properly, Polynices will not. Whoever buries the body of Polynices, jacked. Number 3, the most important thing in the world is our country, our state. Higher than friendships, more important than single friendships, is the taking care of our country. And therefore, whoever violates my law, jacked. There will be no mercy allowed. Let's write it down really quickly now at 2b. Obviously, our conflict is now evolving. we understand the central conflict is we have character versus character in Creon and Antigone. Obviously Antigone is going to violate the law. But we also have an internal conflict. That is to say, Creon is going to make a law that he will recognize here in a little bit is going to be very difficult to keep. We often ask this question when we study this play. Do you think it's at all possible that a parent sometimes says, young man, if you do X, Y will happen? And the young man turns around and intentionally does X just to see if Y will happen. Of course, the moment that the young man does X, the parent has to decide. Right? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Once you've made the rule, you have to enforce the law. Do you think it's at all possible that a parent has ever said, when the law was broken, that was a really stupid law, I shouldn't have made the rule, I shouldn't have said it. You're either home by a certain time or X is going to happen, and they came home after the right? Of course, there's two kinds of parents, aren't there? Think about this. Two kinds of parents. One kind of parent says, young lady, you will be home at midnight and not a minute later. And so you're hanging out with your people, and at 11:45 you go, dude, I got to get home. What do you mean I got to get home? I got to be home by midnight. If I'm not home by midnight, then all my stuff's going to be sitting on the front lawn. Dude, nobody's going to jack you like that. No, no, no. See, some of us were raised by folks that say, it's midnight or you're jacked. Others of us were raised by folks that say, I know it was midnight that I said, but honey, just next time. Just next time. Right? Okay? And see, some of you are already smiling because you're acutely aware of what that means. Question, if you're a good parent, you make a rule. The rule is violated. Do you enforce the rule? And do you punish? Or do you let them go? Creon says, I ain't letting nobody go. I ain't letting nobody go. Whoever breaks the rule will get jacked. Which is already, we're waiting already, aren't we? For that moment when Antigone is going to be brought in front of Creon, and now Creon's going to have to hold up, be the stand-up guy. I remember I was talking about this. Watch this, watch this. I was talking about this once. And our student in my class, who was notorious for being the troublemaker of our class in our school, he came through the door, slams the door shut, shouts some profanity, slams his books down on the table. I was in the middle of a lecture, believe it or not, on Antigone. And everyone kind of waited to see what Mr. McGee was going to do. And I just waited. He calmed down a little bit. His head snapped around at me and he goes, what? I said, oh, nothing. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay. And then he goes off on the assistant principal who he has just been visiting. The assistant principal who has just jacked him. And he was going off. And I said, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Here in a few days, you'll be the assistant principal and you'll know what it's like on the other side. And he almost came out of his chair at me. What are you talking about? I said, no, no, no. This is about to happen. Watch this. I said, I know you walk to school because I've seen you walk to school and you walk past our park. This afternoon on your way home, if you walk past that park and you see a couple of fifth graders wailing away on a third grader, just wailing on him, and you look, you see it's happening. You only got two options. Option A, you walk past and you ignore it, or you shout to them and say, hey, wail on them for me. But here's the thing. I know you have a very high sense of morality and justice, which is why you're mad right now, because you feel you've been treated unjustly. So I know you're going to take the second option, and the second option is what? He said it. The young man said it. I'd walk up to him and I'd say, knock it off. And I said, right, that's exactly what you would say. And when one of those fifth graders pops back at you, or what? You just became the assistant principal. You just became the assistant principal. What are you going to do? Because when that fifth grader pops back at you and says, or what? Now you are on the horns of a dilemma. What do you do? Because when you walked up there, you were all emotional. Dude, I'm taking care of this. And then the fifth grader pops back at you with rebellion and says, no, you don't tell me, I tell you, no. And you're a sophomore, and that little fifth grader standing there copping attitude on you, and that little third grader's looking up at you like, thank you for saving my life. And it's at that moment, you just became the assistant principal. And guess what? You're going to have to do something that, guess what, will have a ripple effect. then guess what? Will not be easy. That makes you the assistant principal. And there was this really weird ripple effect that went across our room as students began to realize Creon's situation. He's going to make a rule. He's going to say, I will not let off the violator of my rule. And we, the audience, know. By the way, what do we call this? Dramatic irony, right? We know something Creon does not know. We know that Antigone is in fact going to bury the body of her brother Polynices, and in the process, Creon, just like our young man, standing at the park with 5th graders who are wailing on a 3rd grader, Creon then is going to be stuck on the horns of a dilemma. Do I say, well, you're my relation, and you're my son's girl. I'm going to go ahead and let you off for violating a rule that publicly I said will not be allowed to be violated. Of course, what's wrong with a parent that does that? You look soft. You look soft. Which is why some of us, at midnight, when we're supposed to be home, go, well, yeah, we're supposed to be home, but come on, it's no big deal. It's not like my stuff's going to be sitting out on the front lawn. There are others of us that go, no, I'm definitely home, because my stuff will be sitting out on the front lawn, which is why I'm home. Which begs a really interesting question. By the way, jump to 3A really quickly. The great Italian Renaissance writer, Machiavelli, wrote in a famous text called The Prince. He asked this question. As a leader, and by extension we would say as a parent even, is it better to be feared or is it better to be loved? And Machiavelli is the one who made it very famously, said it, it's much better to be feared than it is to be loved, and here's why. People who love the leader, they can get soft and change their mind. But people who fear the leader, if you live in a house where you know your stuff's sitting out on the front lawn, if you come home at 12:05, you will be home at 11:45. Every time. Unless, of course, you calculate that it's probably worth it to live somewhere else, because you know it's going to be sitting out there. That is to say, your fear makes you behave in a certain way. By the way, there is a third response, let's put this in our notes, that is often the response to Machiavelli's challenge in The Prince, and that is it better to be feared or to be loved? One answer is, well, isn't it better and best to be respected? Both a little bit of fear and a little bit of love is what we call respect. Okay, we now turn and we're going to have the chorus who will make an observation, and then we will have a sentry that will come in and say, we got bad news. Somebody buried the body of Polynices. Whoops. Let's go to work.
If that is your will, Creon, son of Menoikeus,
820.
you have the right to enforce it. We are yours.
That is my will. Take care that you do your part.
We are old men. Let the younger ones carry it out.
I do not mean that. The sentries have been appointed.
Then what is it that you would have us do?
You will give no support to whoever breaks this law.
Only a crazy man is in love with death.
And death it is, yet money talks, and the wisest have sometimes been known to count a few coins too many.
821. The messenger, the sentry.
Enter sentry from left.
I'll not say that I'm out of breath from running, King, because every time I stopped to think about what I have to tell you, I felt like going back. And all the time, a voice kept saying, "You fool, don't you know you're walking straight into trouble?" And then another voice, "Yes, but if you let somebody else get the news to Creon first, it will be even worse than that for you." But good sense won out. At least, I hope it was good sense. And here I am with a story that makes no sense at all. But I'll tell it anyhow, because, as they say, what's going to happen's going to happen. And
Come to the point. What have you to say?
I did not do it. I did not see who did it. You must not punish me for what someone else has done.
A comprehensive defense. More effective, perhaps, if I knew its purpose. Come, what is it?
A dreadful thing. I don't know how to put it.
Out with it.
Well then, the dead man, Polynices.
Pause. The sentry is overcome, fumbles for words.
Right? He knows he's
Creon
about to get
waits
jacked.
impassively.
Out there, someone, new dust on the slimy flesh.
Pause. No sign from Creon.
Someone has given it burial that way, and gone.
Long pause. Creon finally speaks with deadly control.
Right?
And the man who dared do this?
I swear I do not know. You must believe me. Listen, The ground was dry, not a sign of digging, no, not a wheel track in the dust, no trace of anyone. It was when they relieved us this morning, and one of them, the corporal, pointed to it. There it was.
822.
The strangest... Look, the body just mounded over with light dust, you see? Not buried, really, but as if they'd covered it just enough for the ghost's peace. And no sign of dogs or any wild animal that had been there. And then what a scene there was. Every man of us accusing the other. We all proved the other man did it. We all had proof that we could not have done it. We were ready to take hot iron in our hands, walk through fire, swear by all the gods, it was not I. I do not know who it was, but it was not I.
Creon's rage has been mounting steadily, but the sentry is too intent upon his story to notice it.
And then, when this came to nothing, someone said a thing that silenced us and made us stare down at the ground. You had to be told the news, and one of us had to do it. We threw the dice, and the bad luck fell to me. So here I am. No happier to be here than you are to have me. Nobody likes the man who brings bad news.
I have been wondering, King, can it be that the gods have done this?
Furiously.
Stop! Must you doddering wrecks go out of your heads entirely? The gods! Intolerable! The gods favor this corpse? Why? How had he served them? Tried to loot their temples, burn their images? Yes! And the whole state and its laws with it! Is it your senile opinion that the gods love to honor bad men? A pious thought. No, from the very beginning there have been those who have whispered together, stiff-necked anarchists putting their heads together, scheming against me in alleys. These are the men, and they have bribed my own guard to do this thing. Money.
Sententiously.
There's nothing in the world so demoralizing as
823.
money. Down go your cities, homes gone, men gone, honest hearts corrupted, crookedness of all kinds, and all for money.
To sentry.
But you, I swear by God and by the throne of God, the man who has done this thing shall pay for it. Find that man, bring him here to me, or your death will be the least of your problems. I'll string you up alive. And there will be certain ways to make you discover your employer before you die, and the process may teach you a lesson you seem to have missed. The dearest profit is sometimes all too dear. That depends on the source. Do you understand me? A fortune won is often misfortune.
King, may I speak?
Your very voice distresses me.
Are you sure that it is my voice and not your conscience?
By
Ouch.
God, he wants to analyze me now.
It is not what I say, but what has been done that hurts you.
You talk too much.
Maybe, but I've done nothing.
Sold your soul for some silver, that's all you've done.
How dreadful it is when the right judge judges wrong.
Your figures of speech may entertain you now, but unless you bring me the man, you will get little profit from them in the end.
Exit Creon into the palace.
Bring me the man. I'd like nothing better than bringing him the man. But bring him or not, you have seen the last of me here. At any rate, I am safe.
All right, let's pause, write it down. In this episode now, the king is going to hear from the sentry messenger 3 important things. 1, while we were watching, all of a sudden, we looked and the body had been sprinkled with dust. That is to say, it had been buried. 2, it wasn't me, he says. I promise you it wasn't me, but I lost the straw, the dice that was wrong. And so I'm the one that had to come and tell you this. Bad luck for me. And Creon is outraged. By the way, note for your notes. Every time Creon speaks about whoever did this, it's always as a man. The assumption is it's a man who's done this. Can't be a woman. Surely not Antigone, right? Finally, number 3. He will tell the sentry, you either find who did this and bring that man to me, or you yourself are going to get strung up for this. The poor sentry, of course, will leave, and he can't believe that he's even being given the right to get away, right? All right, we're on to page 824 now, and the first ode. As we hear from the chorus is already beginning to shift its opinion a little bit. You know what? Maybe we better think about this law that you've made and the problems with enforcing this law. Let's just enjoy now this set of lines.
Exit Sentry. Ode 1, Strophe 1.
Numberless are the world's wonders, but none more wonderful than man. The storm-gray sea yields to his prows. The huge crests bear him high. Earth, holy and inexhaustible, is graven with shiny furrows where his plows have gone year after year, the timeless labor of stallions.
Antistrophe 1.
The light-boned birds and beasts that cling to cover, the lithe fish lighting their reaches of dim water, all are taken, tamed in the net of his mind. The lion on the hill, the wild horse windy-maned, resigned to him, and his blunt yoke has broken the sultry shoulders of the mountain bull.
Strophe 2.
Words also, and thought as rapid as air, he fashions to his good use. Statecraft is his, and his the skill that deflects the arrows of snow, the spears of winter rain. From every wind he has made himself secure, from all but one. In the late wind of death he cannot stand.
825.
Antistrophe 2.
O clear intelligence, force beyond all measure, O fate of man working both good and evil, when the laws are kept, how proudly his city stands. When the laws are broken, what of his city then? Never may the anarchic man find rest at my hearth. Never it be said that my thoughts are his thoughts.
All right, let's pause.